What's up, my friends? It's another week in real estate. We got quite a bit to talk about today. I'm going to go over evictions and the interview that I just had with Andrew Delory, a final walkthrough situation that I just had happen to me last week, that you sellers do not want to make that mistake. And the last is sellers are coming to the market. There's more sellers that are entering into this market. So let's start off with the evictions. I sat down with Andrew Delory, we had a Zoom call last week, and we were talking about what's going on with evictions. So anybody that's a landlord or anybody that's getting into the multifamily game that wants to be a landlord, you're gonna wanna hear this. So I asked him, how have evictions changed since the pandemic according to now? So obviously everything has moved more virtually. Has it slowed down at all? No, it has not. The courts are totally backed up. The whole eviction process is taking place online. And what Andrew had mentioned is that it's better in the landlord's favor to try to work it out with the tenant as much as you can. To try to work it out with the tenant and come up with a situation where it's either cash or keys, where you pay the tenant's moving costs to move out, or that you set them up with a RAFT plan, which is a government plan, a government assistance program right now, which they're offering to pay the majority of the tenant's rent, if not all of it. It's a direct payment right to the landlord, so you're not chasing down any tenants. Let's face it, people have legitimately fallen on hard times and they need some help. So that's one way of doing it. Others are taking advantage of the situation and they're just not paying their rent. So that's where you're gonna get into the eviction situation. But what to do overall, it's the best way, like as what he mentioned, is to try to figure this out amicably, help the tenant, pay them, to move, pay their moving costs to move, if so. Do whatever you can, but he's seeing a lot of these eviction cases are not going the distance. And when we say the distance, it's, for any of you who have gone through the eviction process, long term, it can take 6 months plus to get a tenant out if it's a really, really bad situation and you're not able to come to terms before that. So as far as where evictions are going, now that the moratorium is coming to an end, I believe that's coming to an end at the end of June. Moratoriums, once those get lifted, the courts are going to be even further backed up, and there might be some opportunities out there for savvy multifamily investors to take on the headaches of some owners out there who want to capitalize on their investment. We're already seeing them right now. I want to get into a final walkthrough story that I just had happen to me. This is very important for sellers to make sure, according to your purchase and sale agreement, that there's language in there most often where a buyer wants the property delivered in broom swept condition. Now, if you have an agreement with the buyer to leave certain furnitures or maybe equipment for a pool or a sauna or whatever it might be, if there's an agreement that both agree to, whether it's fridges or stoves, anything like that, if that's all agreed upon to stay in the property, that's fine. But if the buyer puts in there that the property is to be delivered free and clear or broom swept condition and X, Y, and Z is supposed to stay or be removed, you better make sure that that stuff is done by the final walkthrough. A buyer gets a final walkthrough either the day of the closing or the day before the closing. And if that stuff or those materials or items are not left in the property or are not cleared out, the buyer can do what's called a holdback. And the holdback is where the buyer will hold a certain amount of funds back until those items are taken care of. Some buyers will not close at all and won't even do a holdback until that stuff is done. So what happened in my situation was the seller did not clear out any of the stuff. The day came and he said he can take it. He can take the property if he wants with the stuff in it, or he's gonna leave or leave it. The buyer said, I'm not taking it with the stuff in it, and the deal died right at the closing table. So it was tough to try to get everybody even to agree to move the stuff out. I mean, us as the brokers were trying to work something out, and it just didn't, we weren't able to make it come through. The seller, in my opinion, was extremely unreasonable. I mean, we're not talking about a few boxes, we're talking about clothes, large furniture items, and I don't have a good explanation as to why that happened, but needless to say, the deal died, and it's because the seller did not deliver the property clear of all the furniture and so forth, and the buyer just wasn't willing to wait around either. I don't really blame them. The last thing I want to cover is the sellers that are entering the market now. According to Fannie Mae, they did a survey where they surveyed a lot realtors as well as home sellers, and 67% of home sellers are saying that they are going to be entering into the market within the next 6 to 12 months to sell their property. That's fantastic news. We'll obviously have to wait and see what happens, but it's great news for buyers. It's great news for brokers. As we've been talking about this throughout the weeks, the inventory is at all-time low. What does that mean for you as a seller, though? So if you've listed your property within the past month or before, you're probably under agreement by now. You're probably on your way to closing by now. If you're getting into the market and you're going to be listing the home within the next 6 to 12 months, like the 67% that mentioned that they are going to be doing that, you're now going to be competing with other houses. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be super competitive, but there's going to be more inventory. You know, if you take a market like Melrose, where there used to be 10 houses for sale, now you might see double that. You might see 20 houses for sale. Still not a huge amount of inventory or a huge increase, but it's still doubled, and you're not going to be able to be as aggressive with your pricing as you would have if you had listed a month or two ago. So it's great news for the buyers. There is going to be more inventory. Does it mean that the market's going to crash? No. Does it mean that your home's value has decreased a lot? No, it doesn't mean that either. You're still going to get a strong price. As long as you price the home correctly, you'll still sell for a great price. In addition to sellers wanting to sell, we also have the forbearance that's going to be coming up and coming to an end for a lot of homeowners. And once the forbearance is up, the homeowner has to make a decision on whether or not they want to continue to try to make payments on their mortgage, or if they will still sell the house, or if they decide to sell the house is what I mean. So we're definitely going to see some more inventory come to the market as a combination of sellers that are ready to hop into the market and the forbearance that's coming to an end, that's going to force a lot of homeowners to put their home on the market so that they don't go underwater with the mortgage payments. So inventory is on the rise. It's definitely going to come, or we hope that it's going to come at least. We shall see what these next couple months look like, but I'm excited. I think the buyers should be excited. I think the realtors should be excited out there. And that's all I've got for this week. If you have any questions, friends or family that are looking for some advice or suggestions as to how to handle a certain situation in this real estate market, reach out to me as always. I'd be happy to answer any questions they have.